Hey everybody, back with another fasting video. This time talking about brain health. So anybody that knows me knows, along with fasting, my other main passion when it comes to the human body is the brain, mind mapping, neuroscience. So I want to start tying fasting into the brain. A lot of health benefits there as well. So there's something called BDNF. That's basically like fertilizer for the brain. The ways you can get that to the brain are through movement, and that's why I always say exercise is more for your brain than anything else, right? This is going to help neurons and neural connections and new pathways grow. But it's also increased with fasting. So remember, fasting is kind of like forced ketosis, right? And if you get into that state as you're going with the longer fast, ketone bodies raise BDNF and lower oxidative stress in the brain. Another thing with the brain, autophagy, which is what happens when you get into that 20-hour, 2-day, 3-day mark, which is basically when your body goes through and eats up damaged parts of cells, clears out the beta amyloid plaques that begin to accumulate with cognitive decline and Alzheimer's progression. So great for preventative health for the brain, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So that's one thing. Now there's something called the Phishing Effect, and this is where I started piecing together before I did any in-depth research 5 years ago with fasting. Is there's something called the Phishing Effect, and what that is basically when insulin goes up, cortisol goes down, vice versa, about 2 hours later. So if we look at the human body, the most stressful time of the day for the body, for the brain, from a physiological point of view is when we wake up. You're going from a sleeping state to a wakeful state. That's why cortisol should rise up. Basically, in 2 hours, it'll start before we wake up and then peak when we're waking up. Cortisol is an alertness hormone. It gets a bad rap, but that's just when we're excessively stressed. So it's an alertness hormone. So that's going to rise, right? So we want that to continue to rise. As that continues to rise, growth hormone is going to go up with that, which is great for the brain function. Now, if we eat a breakfast like most people, insulin goes up. Now, most people, when they eat a typical breakfast, they're going to get hungry and tired shortly thereafter, right? So think about that. Cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, all these things, epinephrine, these are all alertness hormones for the brain. We want them to be high, okay? We're going to be much more productive and much sharper. So think about Thanksgiving dinner. People want to blame it on tryptophan and melatonin. That's complete BS. It's because you eat an obsessively big meal, and I do too. You're going to get tired after that. That's what happens when we really spike insulin, because blood sugar goes through the roof and we're just jamming our belly, which is another reason I'll talk about in another video. I'm a big fan of eating at night, closer to bed, a big meal. But that's another thing, okay? And then I also talked about luteinizing hormone a couple videos back. That's a precursor to testosterone production. When men talk to me about testosterone therapy, I always explain to them, listen, you're going to feel better mentally. It's hard to explain until you try it. But the reason is there's more testosterone receptors on your brain than anywhere else in the body. So if we can boost that, the luteinizing hormone, you're going to get that effect on the brain as well. So people that say, oh, I get brain fog, I get hypoglycemia, I get dizzy, confused. I've talked about that. That's complete BS. Don't listen to it. That's just a tantrum. And it's a hunger, it's the infantile ego starting to cry, I want food, I want food. You don't need it. If you want to have a sharper brain, you got to fast. If you want to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia possibly, you got to fast. And another thing for that is sleep. We'll talk about that. I'm going to tie all these together as I keep diving into the research. But that's just some food for thought. And also, when it comes to productivity, I'm a big fan of working against the clock. Now, a lot of people don't do that, right? But if you say, okay, I'm going to fast till noon, or I'm going to fast until I get this thing done, you're going to be much more productive. It's a forced way to lock your focus in and maybe treat yourself with a reward. So that's just something else. Now, later in the week, I'm going to talk about metabolism and the myth of eating more frequently and why people think that's so. I'm going to have a couple books with my book list with fasting. So Eric Driver, you were asking. The one I'm reading currently is Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Fung, but this thing is excellent, Metabolic Autophagy. It's about 500 pages, but it's really in-depth, and I have a couple other books I'll highlight for those of you that want to start doing your own research. And as always, hit the share button, hit the like button, leave a comment if you have it. I should have the fasting group up tomorrow, the fasting Facebook group. Thanks for all the support, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Peace.